It's the Pikey Loughz Show, Talking Taipans. With Chris Pike and Alex Loughton come to you with everything that is 100% Taipans. Let's go. It's Talkin Taipans.
Hello and welcome to the first ever Talking Taipans. It's the Pikey and Loughz Show.
Absolutely. Look, it's great to be here. But now, look, I do have some questions, okay? I do have some questions.
Go for it, Loughz.
Look, when my manager contacted me and said, look, Loughz, I got a 5-figure deal for you to do a podcast with CP. I'm like, man, Chris Paul? We've seen some former NBA players, the owner of the Breakers, Matt Walsh, new owner of the Brisbane Bullets, Kevin Martin. He's come back from the retirement and being involved with the NBA. I'm like, Chris Paul, still current player for OKC right now. He wants to do a podcast with me, but no, it wasn't to be the case. It was CP, as in Chris Pike. So I guess tell the good people of Cairns, who is Chris Pike?
Well, first of all, let's hope it's not too disappointing for you, Loughz, because I've known you for a long time, and I hope that you weren't too disappointed. But well, basically, hopefully, a lot of fans have seen my name around the place as a basketball writer, predominantly for the NBL. But in recent years, I've been working with the Taipans a little bit as well.
Did you do that article on Loughz towards the end of the career there, towards the retirement? Was that you?
Absolutely, Loughz. We
Mate, that was a great article. I loved it. I loved every bit of it. It was good. Okay. Chris Pike, the writer. A writer for the NBL and writer for the Cairns Taipans. A lot of the stories coming through are actually at your pen. Great. No,
that's right, and hopefully continuing. Hopefully, doing this with you doesn't jeopardise that. So, Jazz, if you're listening, don't hold this against me too much, please.
Okay, I'm definitely happy with that. Now, my question around the 5-figure deal, I only revealed later that 4 of those figures came after the decimal point. And the first figure was a 0. So I guess my third question is, who are we and what is this show for? Tell the good people of Cairns, the Orange Army, the Taipan supporters, what this show is all about.
Well, we want to be here for the Taipans fans, for the Orange Army, who you know better than anyone, Loughz, having been in Cairns now for 10 years, that they're the forgotten club of the NBL. They're often not talked about, even when you make grand finals like you did twice in your career. You don't get a lot of attention up there.
Yeah, not talked about enough.
Not talked about. We want to be here to give the Taipans fans, which there's thousands of them because every single home game there's more than 4,000 that turn up to a game. The Orange Army's unbelievable, so we want to be here for them. We want to give them the inside word on everything that's happening at the Taipans, and we want to be there for them, and that's why you're here, because let's be honest, you're one of the all-time greats of the Taipans, and you might not like to say that yourself, Loughz, but the fans want to hear from you.
No, I'm excited, Pikey. Look, I always feel connected to the Taipans and the fans, of course. And as we move this thing forward, love to have that interaction and people asking questions about the game, getting our insights, allowing us to break down moments of the games and things like that, and looking forward to future games. So I'm really excited about what's possible over the course of the season. And let's get it started.
Well, before we do, just very quickly, for the fans that don't know a lot about you, which there won't be many of, but looking at the team, and there's guys like Scotty Mercado and Cam Oliver who are thinking that they've just moved to Cairns, and all of a sudden there's this guy Loughzy who's getting on his podcast and he's giving all the inside goss on the Taipans, but who is he? So if you're listening, guys, let's just have a quick rundown of what Loughzy did in his career at the Taipans. 249 games, second all-time for the club, second all-time in points scored, third for field goals made, fifth for 3 points made, fifth in assists, fifth in blocked shots, fifth in steals, second in rebounds, led the team to 2 grand finals, and I've been officially informed by Mark Slocum, the NBL's official stats man, that the most fist pumps in NBL history. So there's a bit of a rundown, and before that, Old Dominion University, the Perth Wildcats. You played in Spain. You played for the Boomers. So if anyone wants to question Loughzy, Just have a look at that background before you jump on his back too quickly.
Oh, wow. Oh, I didn't know half those stats. Obviously, the fist pump stat stands out. And obviously number one in videos behind the scenes showcasing players doing funny things on the road in my time there at the Taipans. So I think as we move this thing forward, it's great to be I think on the scene with all the players locally, and then when players come over to Perth, where you are located, you'll be able to touch on various aspects as well and get interviews as well, and then we can bring that back together and then sort of break it down from there. But look, I'm excited. There's a lot of great players for the Taipans this year, and we can't wait to hear more about them in depth.
This episode of the Pikey Loughz Show proudly brought to you by Cairns Total Physio. Less pain, more life.
Now, Loughz, I know that the Taipans have already played their first game of the season, but this is our first episode here on the Pikey and Loughz Show. So let's just take a look at the squad that has been assembled by Mike Kelly and company. Obviously, some of the outs are significant, and one more so than the rest when you've got the old power forward number 40 there. But Mello Trimble is obviously...
Oh, yeah, I noticed you mentioned that. Yeah, that's interesting.
Just irreplaceable, really. But Mello Trimble, obviously tough to replace. He had a fantastic season, but it's tough to offer... It's tough to match some of the bigger dollars from the clubs down south. Mitch Young's now moved into retirement and didn't get a lot of court time last year. Devon Hall has moved on. Kawani, he was a handy player, but when you got Kawat Noi come in and also Majuk Deng, not just because they're Sudanese, but you would think that those two players can have a bigger impact than what Kawani did last season. Dexter Koenig-Drew was sort of hindered by injury last season. Lucas Walker, he's a great team man. He can obviously do a lot, but didn't quite hit his straps just because of his sore ankle last season. Rob Lowe's probably the big loss because of what he can do inside and outside as a big man. But some of the ins for the Taipans this season look very exciting. Majuk Deng is a player who in patches showed what he could do at the 36ers, but if he gets it going this season, he's capable of being clearly the most improved player of the league. He can put up some big numbers just because of his length and his shooting ability and everything he can do. Kawat Noi's made no secret of what he's come into the league to do, and he wants to be the best rookie since Joe Ingles. So that's putting a target on his back, and he looks capable. Cam Oliver looks like a handy 4 or 5 man, and then Scotty Machado, who looks capable of filling in that void from Mello Trimble, and Anthony Fisher and George Blagojevic, who have earned their chance on the squad as well.
Marlins, we just call him Blablowski. Seemed to be easier.
So I mean, it's a good looking squad when you got Nate and DJ back now and being co-captain. What do you make of the squad? And let's not forget Jared Kenny and that mullet, which is just incredible.
Mullet is really impressive. It's really short on the sides, feathered and lethal on the top and the tail. You just don't see that combination these days, Pikey. Well, actually, you do. You do see a lot of these mohawk mullets going around. But look, let's delve into. I mean, that is the most important thing of the season, the hair. Let's be honest. But let's delve into the second most important thing, the new additions. So, really excited about Majok Deng being at the Cairns Taipans. Now, he did, as you mentioned, had a few patches last year where he really showed some really confident signs of putting numbers on the board quickly. And he's come up to Cairns to improve his stock. Make no question about that. He's not here to mess about. He is here to make his profile bigger, and he has the opportunity to do that. So look for exciting signs from Majok Deng, a confident Majok, and he'll certainly be a big part of the squad this season. So let's talk about the big signing for the Taipans, Cam Oliver. If it wasn't for an ankle injury, he'd probably have secured an NBA contract. That's how close he was to being in the NBA this season. Now, instead of going to upper level Europe, good players are coming down to Australia, to the NBL, as a equally viable option and financially viable option, and we're really excited to have him here because, let me tell you this, Pikey, he's a specimen, he's an athlete, he's above the rim, he's exactly what the Taipans have been wanting, I'm guessing, for many years, someone of his caliber, but also his ability, an NBA level ability to really be a stat stuffer and really bring home the crowd on for the Taipans and get excited. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how our Cam develops over the course of the season. Obviously, worrying signs in that first game when he went down, a bit of a collision there with Bogut, but from all accounts, he seems to be okay. So look, really excited about him. Now, Scott Machado. Now, the difference between Melo Trimble and Scott Machado, they're two different players. So while Melo was just a dominant scorer, just have an ability to get buckets and all that kind of thing. Quite happy to go coast to coast, up and down the floor in trans. Scotty Machado is a pass first point guard. And by that, I mean, if he sees someone ahead of the floor, he's throwing the ball ahead of them. So when DJ Newble's running the lanes last year and his eyes are glazing over, when he's made an effort to get out in front and the ball's not there, you start to change your habits. But for this year, the ball is bouncing ahead of him while he's running. Maybe he hasn't even turned to see it yet, but Scotty Machado's seen the opportunity and the ball is now ahead of the runners. So for a guy running the lanes like DJ, his eyes are suddenly lit up. He's now got options or a reason to run the lanes, and same with the bigs down the center lane. The ball is just getting launched, and Scotty Machado is, as a pass first point guard, really sees the floor well, and that's his strength coming in. So you'll see the assists skyrocket from the point guard position, and exciting things for him. So I guess the question is, for late in the game, he's got to turn back into a scoring point guard if the Taipans are going to have a direction through him in those late clock situations. Otherwise, you've got DJ Newble, who's always in that mindset of a scoring point guard position, or a scorer. So, he'll be great down the stretch as well in the fourth. But yeah, more on that type of stuff later. So Cam Oliver and Scotty Machado, great new additions for the Taipans from the import position. Now, this is the big one for me. Kawhi Noi, such a highly touted, up-and-coming rising star for the NBA. They're touted to be a pick in the draft next year. So why do we have him here? And who is he? He is an energy giver. He is a stat stuffer. He will clean up the scraps. He will be all over the floor like we saw on Friday night. Now, such a talent. And he's putting it out there publicly why he is here, and he's holding himself to the highest account by doing that, because there's nowhere to hide. There's nowhere to hide. He's like, I am going to bring it this year, and if you don't see me bring it, then tell me I'm not bringing it, because that's not good enough. So I really like that he's put his expectations out publicly. Now, most Sudanese in most teams will tell you they're going to the NBA. That's just something that I've noticed. So super high confidence, which I actually like. In players that have gone to the NBA that I've mixed with in college, they've all, it's sort of un-Australian to be, I'll give it a go. I'll see how I go. As an Australian, like Sudanese Australians are saying, I'm going to the NBA. This is happening. This is what's happening. Now, not all of them will get there, but a lot of them will certainly believe that they will get pretty close. So it's exciting to see how his season will unfold, because I think he does have the talent. I think he does have the energy, the ability, the athleticism to really follow through on what he's saying publicly. Now, I'm going to leave it there in terms of new faces for the Taipans, because I really want to break down the Marlins guys that have been upgraded to a Taipans position at a later date, just to give it the due diligence. So let's talk about Friday's game, Pikey.
Well, I mean, there was so much to like about the first game, and you talked before about Scotty Machado being a pass-first point guard. He had 8 assists in that first game, the most ever from a Taipans player on debut, so he's already shown that he's willing to set up his teammates, and it's just a matter of guys being now ready to make plays based on him, because he'll find them. So DJ has to be that player that is the first option because he's just so capable of doing that. Majuk Deng has to step up as well because he's capable of it, and Kuat Noi, we know that he's not shy and he showed some fantastic signs. That double first up on debut was fantastic, and get the ball inside to Nate as much as you can as well. And I think good things generally happen, especially when he's fresh. In that first couple of minutes when he comes on around the midway point of the first quarter, that's usually when he's at his best, and the same in the third quarter because that's when the game starts to slow down a little bit, and that's when he can dominate. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot to like about it, but now with these 3 games on the road, they just can't afford to come home 0-4.
Look, I think Coach Mike Kelly really lamented the fact that there were some wasted opportunities when he spoke in the post-game presser. Some really exciting moments during the game. Just thinking about that third quarter run where they really put points on the board quickly. There was guys running the lane. Cam Oliver got the slam and really lit up the crowd. And that was exciting. That was exciting. And now the fourth quarter, obviously 8 points in the fourth quarter is not going to get it done. And I think there's still some teething things at play where you've got to figure out who you're going to, how are you going to close out a game, who are your best sort of one-on-one players who have the mindset, obviously attacking the rim. If you're going through, Nate, you've got to have your shooters ready to spot up and in the game, of course. If you don't put shooters in while Nate's in the game, they're going to double team probably all the time. So unless you service him by having shooters ready to be on the receiving end, then you're probably going to be a disservice to Nate. But I mean, he's going to give you such a presence in there. If that's the direction you go with going through Nate, then as long as you load up with other players around, then you're good to go. If you choose to go more of that middle on ball kind of situation with your best sort of one-on-one guys, then you can adjust your lineups accordingly. But look, a lot of positives coming out of game one, and I think going into this it's really a 3-game road trip coming up now with Friday, Monday, and then I believe they just go straight along the plane over to you, Pikey, for Friday's game against Perth. It's a big road trip that they'll really want to very quickly figure out the direction late in the game and how they're going to close it out. And let's be honest, that first game is only an 8-point game. And it might have only pushed out to 8 points based on a few free throws as well. So it's probably more of a 4 to 6 point game really against highly touted Sydney Kings lineup tipped to finish in first place. But look, really excited to see the game. Just excited that the season's rolled it around again. Just looking forward to how the Taipans respond over this weekend.
Now, Loughz, you've spoken to Nate Jawai, and we're going to hear from him shortly. But unfortunately, probably the biggest talking point of the opening round of the NBL was the new commentary setup. So the NBL's decided, in a cost-cutting move, but also I assume they thought it would work better, that they've now got the commentary team set up in the hub that they're calling it in Melbourne, and then they've got somebody on the floor at each venue. So in Cairns, that's Trigger obviously. It's fair to say it had its teething problems. We've picked out a couple of little snippets, and then we'll let you give your full thoughts, because I know that you thought it was a little bit probably unacceptable for the NBL where it's at the moment. But before we get your full thoughts, let's just hear a couple of clips from Friday night's game in Cairns. And first of all, there's this one, which was in the first quarter, where Casper Ware was bringing the ball up for the Sydney Kings. Seb Costello, who admitted later that he was calling his first ever basketball game, which probably has its own issues. Somehow he got a little bit confused, because all of a sudden he thought Casper Ware was making a 3-point basket in the corner, but he'd just called him bringing the ball up the floor. So it ended up it was Jay Sean Tate from the Kings who was making the 3. Corey Williams had to save him. Let's have a listen to how it played out.
For the Kings, Casper Ware pushing it. He's lost the ball. He's managed to fire it out. That is
unlucky.
Yeah, thanks to Hungry Jacks, of course, there will be the Hungry Jacks cheeseburger promotion.
Lousy, what did you think of that?
Well, I just feel like it was just unacceptable. The league's come too far to be kind of going down this path. Now, there's two ways to look at it. One, was it a technical kind of issue? I remember we spoke about the Melbourne game. There was a delay of the score being updated. I get it.
And I think they did fix that for the rest of the weekend.
There's a technical side, but then there's what the commentators are actually saying based on what they can see, which is what's on screen in front of them down in Melbourne. But look, I just think the commentators missed the vibe of the atmosphere and the momentum swings, and you can see things behind the play that the cameras don't necessarily capture because it's not sort of part of the broadcast. So, and by that I mean maybe coach goes off at a player, maybe a tech foul happens, but you see it evolve looking around. But for the commentators, they obviously couldn't see the kick out to the player to Tate on the 45 there. Now, it wasn't. Now, I guess the other side of it is it personnel. Was it just? And that was Seb Costello and Corey Homicide Williams. Now, I think Homicide's come a long way. I think he's really refined his product as a commentator in the last sort of few years, and he's a great sort of Robin to a Batman on the commentary thing. By that I mean, obviously, someone calls the play-by-play. Your Dwayne Russell, Matt Russell, that kind of character that's really locked in to really delivering. John Casey's another great one. Delivering the play-by-play and really nailing it. And then you've got the comments from your superstars and your former players, like Homicide. So was it personnel? Was it just said sort of Costello just feeling it out in his quoted first time ever commentating a game? I just don't think that the setup was right, and I don't think it gave the Taipans due diligence for what was a great game, and I don't think it gave the NBL any credit because we've got international eyeballs watching this broadcast. We've got international interest in our league this season. We cannot afford to go backwards here. Now, you saw the Perth game broadcast, Pikey. What did you make of that one over there in Perth on the weekend?
The Perth game was better. There wasn't a lag there. They seemed to have a better chemistry when they were crossing to Sean Redditch, who was in the stadium. But then speaking to Sean afterwards, and it created their own problems because Sean couldn't hear the commentary at all during the game. So every time they crossed to him, he had no idea what he was responding to. So I mean, if you have everyone in the same building, these things don't happen. So I mean, you've got a guy like Sean who is professional enough where he can cover it, but he actually doesn't know what he's responding to, which makes the guy look terrible on the ground. Which whether it's Trigger or Sean or whoever it is,
I'm sure Trigger would be the same as Sean Redditch there. Like it would be frustrating just delivering something down the camera without having someone next to you to sort of feed off and bounce a bit of banter off back and forth. So I'm sure those guys that were positioned on court found it a little bit lonely, looking around, going, "Well, it's just me here in the camera. I better nail this in one shot."
Mm-hmm.
But it's certainly a lot easier to feed off, and I think it sounds better to have two guys bantering back and forth and posing questions and answering different things about players. So I'm sure there was some frustrations there from the guys on the floor.
Yeah, I just wonder aloud, and I don't know the answer to this. If I know the production costs is a big reason why they've done it, but I just wonder if there's still a way to still have the production all outsourced where it directly goes to Melbourne. You don't have the production truck, but can you at least have the commentators in the stadium? I just wonder if that is still possible. So we'll wait and see what happens, because I don't think anybody involved in the NBL wanted that to be the talking point out of round one.
Well, I think there's an answer there. If you put two guys on court at each location, and then maybe you have two guys at the desk back in Melbourne, then what you can do is have the banter back and forth live, and then when you cross to the quarter time report or the half time report, you can go to your Gazies and your Homicides and your superstars that have played before. Now, I'm not going to put Gazy and Homicide in the same boat here. Let's be honest, but they can break down the nuances of the game and the players that have performed well from a halftime report, just like they do on ESPN. From the desk there that they use, obviously for overtime show, which I like, by the way. It's a great setup. But they can break it down from that desk, and then cross back to the guys live on the scene.
Absolutely, it works for other sports, and also if they're interested, Loughzy is available on game nights if they're interested.
Yeah, well, exactly. Come on, let's get this thing rolling. Let's go.
This episode of the Pikey Loughz Show proudly brought to you by Cairns Total Physio. Less pain, more life.
Now, I had a chance to chat with Nate Jawai in the days following the first home game, and I really wanted to find out just how the off-season went, because I noticed that he came back in incredible shape, and he bought into something, a mindset over there, a way of just sort of taking ownership of his body. But here's what he had to say. Take a listen.
Yeah, the off-season going to France, I think, was a real positive for me. I had a lot of downtime for myself. I studied the diet a little bit more about intermittent fasting and all of that, and I really bought into it and tried to see if I could change a few things, and obviously it worked well for me. So I came back into the season in a better shape than I usually did, and it's paying off right now with me previous injuries.
And the game, obviously, first home game of the Taipans, wasn't quite the result you wanted, but there were a lot of positives to take home. How do you feel this group is physically? Obviously, a lot more athletic. How excited are you for this year's Taipans team?
Yeah, it's right across the board. We're athletic. We got Cam Oliver that brings a different dynamic to the game with his athleticism and shooting ability. It's just a good group, Obviously, with you not there anymore with the three-point ability, but with Cam there, with that and could rebound as well, is nice. It's a young group with a lot of youth. I think I am the oldest guy, me and Jared Kenny. And a lot of young guys. You got Court Noy, who runs the floor and plays with a lot of energy. The group is just phenomenal. It's just hard-working guys and hard-nosed, and we like to play together. So it's positive. There's some good signs. We dropped our first game, but we were up. I think it's just the chemistry and playing together. We couldn't close the game out, and ended up with about an 8-point loss, I guess, to the Sydney Kings, which is the best team, I think, personally, in the NBL. So it's some good signs for us. I think we just need to go back to the drawing board and execute defensively and offensively, and to get us down to know who can finish off closing the game and what we need to do when we're pressured with a caliber team like Sydney Kings. So it was good, it was positive, and I'm excited for this season. It's one game down, Positive thing is we can turn around with Brisbane this weekend, and I'm looking forward to it.
So how do you feel about the Brisbane and Wollongong double-header? A good test for you guys and a chance to grow more?
Yeah, it's going to be a good test, Illawarra and Brisbane just played this past weekend, and it was a tough game. Obviously you get young LaMelo Ball with all the media friends and whatnot, with his talent that he's also producing in the NBL, which is exciting to see someone in that caliber out here performing for the Illawarra Hawks. And we have two difficult tasks, starting with Brisbane, and then off to Wollongong. It's going to be hard, too hostile environment. Knowing playing in Illawarra yourself is tough to do that. So I think if we stick together and handle our business, and hopefully we can come up with a 2-good win this weekend.
Thanks, Balls.
Gee, you can just tell the shape that he's in. He talked about the effort that he's put in to get into that shape, and that he's more dedicated than ever to get into that condition, because, like you said earlier, he knows that time's running out on his career, so he wants to make the most of it, and it's fantastic to see him this dedicated, in this sort of shape, and for somebody that's been a long-term teammate of his, it must be exciting for you to see him in this sort of mental and physical state.
Yeah, look, when you're a young player, you don't sort of have to worry so much about, a lot of your metabolism, a lot of your post practice stretching and things like that. Like you're just a young bug running around and just excited for the next time you're playing a game and things like that. When you get older, it's so much harder. The checklist of things you have to run through just to be ready for training, just to be ready for the season, a game. It's just huge. So I think Nate sort of recognised that. Look, I'm not going to put a timestamp on his career, like 2 or 3 years or things like that. That's always up to the individual. But I think for him to really recognise the need to really give himself the best chance at finishing strong, the best chance at finishing the last sort of few years of the tail end of a career well. I think it's a real positive and it's a real mature approach, and I'm really happy for what he's been able to do.
Yeah, you touched on the captaincy. I wanted to talk about that because you mentioned it before. I feel like there's been times during his career where he's such a quiet, unassuming guy where he doesn't want to cause any waves, where he takes a back seat, but I feel like he wants to feel wanted by the club and he wants to feel needed. And I feel like now that he's being given that role as captain, it's a chance for him to now fully embrace that and to I think it helps him feel like he's wanted and feels appreciated. And I think in turn that will allow him to now help his teammates more than ever before. I just feel like there's been times when he feels like he's been lost at different clubs that he's been at, but now that he's captain, I feel like it could really help him thrive even further.
Yeah, look, I think Nate always knows he's a big part of this community. He knows that what it means for the Taipans to have success. What it would mean to him and his family and the people around the town. So to make him captain really galvanizes that support from the club end. That he's our guy alongside DJ Newbull, of course, as captains. But I really like the appointment of Nate as in that leadership role because he'll take ownership of the team. Previous years, you look up to your captains and you can sort of hide behind some of the responsibilities, I guess. But when you're in that lead role, the team looks to you. The team looks to you for motivation. The team looks to you to be inspiring and to make inspiring plays. I'm really excited about I guess the development or the evolvement of Nate as captain and leader throughout the course of the season. Look, I will say this though. I found on the court he was very quick to, be able to voice his opinion, which is great because you don't have time in professional sports to faff about and I don't want to say something. I might hurt someone's feelings. That kind of thing. In sports, you've got to be direct and to the point, and as players, you have to take that criticism on board and quickly move on. So I was certainly really impressed. The last few years when Nate being on the floor, he was very capable of voicing his opinion. Maybe he has to get a little bit of refinement in his approach, but I mean that'll come as he evolves over the years. So I've certainly noticed that Nate is a true competitor between the white lines, and that's really what I love about what he brings to this team. But certainly excited about how he can evolve with those captains. He's got to maintain relationships with the players, of course, all throughout, and part of that is refining your approaches. But he certainly has the ability to really voice his opinion quickly and voice it in a way that sort of gets the team on the right path, or at least letting them hear what he has to say to make the right decisions in the next few plays. So just excited about what's to come for Nate. And what better way to kick off the first big test by a massive 3-game road trip coming up this next round?
Absolutely. And it wouldn't have been a Taipan show to start with the first episode here with Pikey Loughz Show without Nate Jawai. So a big thanks to him for catching up with you early on, Loughz. So it's been a big first show. Just very quickly, a doubleheader obviously this round for the Snakes. Your very quick thoughts on the Bullets on Friday night in Brisbane, and then the Hawks in the Gong on Monday night. What are you expecting?
Look, it's going to be a showdown in Brisbane. The Taipans and the Bullets had some great preseason games. Taipans getting the edge of them up here quite convincingly, but then Brisbane go, well, we didn't have a couple of our players. Well, guess what? Nate Jawai and Scotty Machado didn't play also, and some of those games, and we're limited without Jared Kenny as well. So it's going to be a massive game for Friday night hoops in Brisbane. And then, of course, on Monday in Illawarra, it's going to be a hostile environment as well, as Nate spoke about. But I think the Hawks are still sort of a few games away from really finding their feet. I think Aaron Brooks is a revelation down there. Like, he really plays a man's game in the NBL. Obviously, he comes off the bench, but LaMelo Ball's the star and the bright lights and everything like that. But I think Aaron Brooks really is able to steady the ship down in the Hawks territory. But I think the Taipans will have all guns blazing for that Hawks game particularly. So look for very good results for this weekend for the Taipans. So yeah, I'm actually going to go Taipans by 2 points in overtime down in Brisbane.
Wow.
What are your thoughts on the Brisbane game?
I think it's going to be tough. Brisbane looked really good last week, but like you said, you had the wood on Brisbane last season. You started off with that. It was almost a 20-point win in round one, and then you broke the losing streak against Brisbane. I'm going to go with the Taipans too to get it done, and probably 7 or 8 points.
And for the Illawarra game, I'm going to go the Taipans by 6 points in Wollongong on Monday night. What do you got, Chris?
I think so too. A tough weekend for the Hawks. They play in Perth on Friday night, so travelling over to Perth from Wollongong, then spending the weekend travelling across to Cairns isn't an easy thing to do. So hopefully the Snakes can take advantage of that and get the win. Very quickly, one-word answers, Loughz. The Hawks at the Wildcats on Friday night.
Wildcats by 16 points.
Yeah, I think they've lost 31 of their last 32 in Perth have Illawarra, so it's not a happy hunting ground. Sydney Kings hosting the Adelaide 36ers first game of the season after their walloping from the Utah Jazz last week.
And coming off that flight, how long's that flight? 14-hour flight?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I got the Sydney Kings by 16 points.
And then Brisbane Bullets backing it up, heading to Melbourne to play the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix.
Southeast Melbourne Phoenix will win by 3.
We'll hold you to that and come back to it next week.
Yeah, we just have to make it to a second show, hey, to next week.
Let's hope we get to a second show. We've got through the first show, Loughz, and what better way to finish than with final thoughts from the great Taipans number 40.
Strap yourself into season 2019-2020. The Taipans will be raising some eyebrows throughout the course of the year. Look for big upsets. Look for a real strong group once they click together. Stay with Pikey Loughz Show all season long, and we'd love your feedback. We'd love your questions, more importantly, that we can break down some things that from our insights, and then we can help answer some of those burning questions you got. So look for us on the socials. But for right now, the Pikey Loughz Show is out, and we'll see you on the next installment.
This episode of the Pikey Loughz Show proudly brought to you by Cairns Total Physio. Less pain, more life.